All right. Well, good morning once again, everyone. My name is Jeff Rasmussen. I'm the Outreach and Education Program Manager with the Clean Buildings team here at the Department of Commerce. Our presentation today is the Tier 2 Compliance Benchmarking in ESPM, facilitated by Donnie Westfall, one of our building and technical specialists here with our team. We've got a lot of information to share with you. And again, as a reminder, we will have time for Q&A at the end of this program. But if you do have questions in the meantime, please drop those into the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. We've got an amazing team that's behind the scenes here that is eager to answer all your questions. And so with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So as I mentioned, we are part of the Clean Buildings team, which is within the Department of Commerce. And you can see here the goal of, or our mission for Department of Commerce is strengthening communities, everything from housing and homelessness, community services, and then of course, we're up here in the energy division. And then from there, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Donnie, who'll take us through the rest of the program through the day. So go ahead, Donnie.
Thanks, Jeff. Hey, everybody, Donnie Westfall here, Building Technical Specialist with the Clean Buildings Program. So today we're going to be covering benchmarking for Tier 2 buildings specifically. It's going to have kind of a lot of information, relatively quick. It'll be recorded. You can reference the video later on. And then a lot of resources are going to be posted on some of the slides that can help you kind of navigate this whole process that we're covering today. And we're really starting from the baseline, right? And setting up an account, creating a property, adding energy meters, getting utility data into those meters, and then connecting and sharing your properties with Commerce. We should have time, as Jeff mentioned, for some Q&A at the end, but we'll get started here with a little bit of background information just on the Clean Building Standard, and then just a quick overview of Tier 2 compliance. All right, background. So the building sector is Washington State's second largest carbon polluter behind transportation. The Washington State Energy Code addresses energy efficiency in new buildings, but there are a significant number of existing buildings in the state that contribute to the state's emissions profile. These existing buildings create unique challenges, but they also provide great opportunities as the state works to meet its greenhouse gas emissions limits. The Washington State Legislature recognizes that it's in the best interest of the state to maximize the full potential of energy efficiency standards, incentives, programs, and codes to keep energy costs low and to meet our greenhouse gas emissions reduction goals by 2030, 2040, and 2050. So as a result, the Clean Buildings Law was authorized in House Bill 1257 in the 2019 legislative session. The law utilized ASHRAE Standard 100 as the base code, which covers energy efficiency in existing buildings, and charged the Department of Commerce with program rulemaking, notifying building owners, administering incentives, and supporting mandatory compliance. Commerce then, through rulemaking, developed amendments to Standard 100 to conform with the Clean Buildings legislation, and these amendments can be found under the WAC 194-50. ASHRAE developed an integrated document that incorporates all of our state amendments into Standard 100, and a link to this document can be found on the Clean Buildings website and is available to download for free. So the original legislation applied to commercial buildings over 50,000 square feet, but was later expanded on in 2022 through House Bill 5722 to include Tier 2 buildings, which is what we'll be covering here today. This is just an image of the integrated document there on the right. The latest version of that is July of 2024. And then an outline of the Clean Buildings Performance Standard by section, and includes the normative annexes. So normative annexes are required as applicable to individual buildings. And just noted here, normative annex Y covers the administrative procedures for Tier 2 compliance. In the actual integrated document, you'll also see informative annexes. Those are there to provide useful information, but are not required for compliance. Now let's take a look at the general requirements for Tier 2 building compliance. So first off, what is a Tier 2 building? A Tier 2 building is defined as a commercial building that's greater than 20,000 square feet, but does not exceed 50,000 square feet, excluding the parking garage area. It also includes all multifamily residential buildings greater than 20,000 square feet. And a multifamily residential building is defined within the standard as a covered multifamily building on contiguous property containing sleeping units or more than 5 dwelling units where occupants are primarily permanent in nature. So Tier 2 buildings have a compliance reporting deadline of July 1st, 2027. So in order to avoid penalties, owners of Tier 2 buildings must submit their documentation by this deadline. To comply with the standard, Tier 2 building owners must benchmark their building's energy use to establish an energy use intensity, or EUI, which is what we'll be focusing on here today. They'll need to develop an energy management plan and implement an operations and maintenance program. At this point, Tier 2 buildings do not need to meet a performance metric. So here's just a simplified compliance flowchart for Tier 2 building owners. First, determine if your building may be eligible for exemption. Tier 2 exemptions are outlined within Normative Annex Y 4.1 and include exemptions for recently built buildings that have not had a certificate of occupancy for 12 consecutive months within 2 years prior to their compliance deadline. Buildings that have lack of physical occupancy in more than 50% of the building. Buildings with more than 50% of the floor area used for manufacturing or other industrial purposes, agricultural structures, buildings pending demolition, and buildings that meet conditions of financial hardship. If the building is not exempt, building owners will need to complete the benchmarking, develop that EMP and O&M, and then submit their compliance documentation by the July 1, 2027 deadline. And to reiterate, Tier 2 building owners do not have to meet a building performance target or comply with the alternative performance metric for this initial compliance cycle. Okay, now we've had a little background information. We're going to dive into compliance requirements for Tier 2 building owners. The first compliance requirement for Tier 2 building owners, which is energy benchmarking. So what is benchmarking and why do it? Benchmarking within the context of the Clean Building Performance Standard is a mechanism to measure a building's energy performance over time relative to other similar buildings and the standard's established performance targets. And why do it? Well, first, it's required for Clean Building Performance Standard compliance. Both Tier 1 and Tier 2 building owners must benchmark their building's energy use and provide that data to the state. And it may also be required by other jurisdictions in the state, such as the City of Seattle. It provides a baseline understanding of how your building is performing over time when compared to national and regional averages for similar building types, as well as how your building's performing relative to those Clean Building Performance Standard targets. And then once you have once you understand how your building is performing, it can help to identify where energy is being wasted, such as inefficient HVAC systems, lighting, equipment, and it can help to identify opportunities for improvements, prioritizing investments in energy efficiency measures that will save energy and lower operating costs for your building. Tracking energy use provides data to inform decision making for energy performance management. Benchmarking gives you monthly or quarterly data that can provide a snapshot of your building's performance over time, which can help energy managers and building operators ensure that their systems are performing as intended and are not drifting over time. And if investments in building systems have been made, it can also help to track the effectiveness of those newly implemented efficiency measures. And then finally, benchmarking and taking steps to reduce energy consumption in your building can contribute to lowering greenhouse gas emissions from the built environment and potentially help your organization stay on track to meeting their own sustainability goals. So what do we use to benchmark buildings for Clean Building Standard? We use a platform called Energy Star Portfolio Manager, which is a free online platform hosted by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. This is the industry standard for energy benchmarking around the U.S. and Canada. This platform tracks energy use for buildings or portfolios of buildings and can link directly with database systems such as our Clean Buildings portal and automatically calculates energy use intensity metrics, which is what the Clean Building Standard uses to gauge compliance. So, sorry. Additionally, Portfolio Manager can track water consumption, waste management, greenhouse gas emissions, green power purchases for your organization. These metrics are not required for clean building standard compliance, but they can be useful for understanding resource management in your building or buildings. All right, so now we're going to walk through high level how to create a Portfolio Manager account, adding a property, and then adding energy meters. This should provide you with just a general overview to get started if you haven't already. I'll provide some screenshots on the following slides with general step-by-step outlines for some of these initial processes. If you want to get more in-depth training or instructions on any of these processes, the EPA or the Energy Star website has some great training resources available to help you get started. Additionally, Commerce has published a guidance document that walks through what we're going to cover today, and it links to both of those resources are available later on in the presentation on a resource slide that I put. Okay, to get started, you'll need to know basic information about your building, such as your building's address, year of construction, the weekly operating hours, as well as details such as the building's gross floor area and building activity type for the property. The gross floor area, or GFA, is critical in calculating the energy use intensity. GFA is the number of square feet measured between the outside surfaces of the exterior walls of the building. It includes supporting functions of the building, but does not include outside bays, docks, or parking areas. The building activity type describes how the building is used. For example, your building might be a K-12 school. It could be an office building, a restaurant, etc. There are many different building activity types outlined within the Clean Buildings Performance Standard. Those are listed in Table 7.1 of the standard, and they are defined within Table 7.4 of the standards integrated document. Just to note, the Clean Building Performance Standard language uses the term building activity type. Portfolio Manager uses the term property types. So they're somewhat interchangeable. They don't always align. So in instances where they don't align, Portfolio Manager select the closest property type that it would align with the building activity type from the standard itself. Okay, when getting started here, collecting data about your building can be helpful to utilize Energy Star's data collection worksheet, which is the QR code here. Not all the data points are required for Clean Building Standard compliance, but they can still be helpful just if you need to track certain data points for your building, or if you're pursuing Energy Star certification for your property. So once you've got building details, the next step is creating an Energy Star Portfolio Manager account. If you haven't done so already, these are the general steps just to make that happen. Once you've navigated to the web page, the link is listed here on the slide. You'll click Create an Account, and this will open up a window that requires you just to fill out basic information about the account holder. You need to set up a username and password and fill in some important details. Commerce recommends creating a generic account for your organization so that login information is not specific to one user, and the account information can easily be transferred in the event of staff turnover or new building ownership. A couple things on this page, just be sure that reporting units use conventional EPA, not metric. And then make sure to select yes in the box titled, can other people search for you and send connection requests? Selecting no there will prevent you from being able to share properties, connect with other users, and allow automatic upload of utility data. This setting is also required to share your benchmarking data with the Clean Buildings portal for compliance reporting. So once all this is completed, you click Create My Account, and then you're all set up. So the next step would then be to add a building or property to your account. We'll start by just going over kind of how to add a single property, and then we'll touch on how to create a campus or multiple building property a little bit later on. So step one, log into your new account. On the main page under My Portfolio tab, which is, this is kind of a screenshot from the top of what that would look like. You'll see here, there's a button labeled Add a Property. When you click that button, it'll open up a new screen It's titled here, Set Up a Property, Let's Get Started. So on this page, you'll select the primary property type or the building activity type, as we mentioned earlier. Then it'll help you, this will help you analyze the performance of the building and compare it to similar buildings in your portfolio. And then next, you'll need to select the number of physical buildings located on the property. You have options here. You can select either one, none, or more than one. In most instances for a building, you'll just have one. In situations where you may be benchmarking a portion of a building, you could select the none option. And then more than one if you are benchmarking a campus of buildings. If your tier 2 building shares an energy meter with another building, you can use what's called group benchmarking to submit energy use data and EUI metrics. And we'll touch on that here in a couple slides. Finally, the select construction status of the property. In almost all cases, your property will be existing. The design option can be used to evaluate energy efficiency of a future project. You can apply for design to earn Energy Star certification, and then you can also use it to compare designed energy use against actual energy use once a building is occupied and operational. We're not going to touch on that today, but the other option is test property. This is a good option if you want to just play around with Portfolio Manager prior to actually adding a real building. You can create sort of a fake building and add energy use data and just kind of see some of the functionality of Portfolio Manager prior to getting going with your actual property. So next, click Get Started. And then this next page will require you to enter just basic property information for your building. So enter the required information you gathered earlier on, including the property's name, address, year built, the gross floor area, the percentage of occupancy. Occupancy percentage is the gross floor area that is occupied and operational in the building. For example, if you have an office building with 9 of 10 floors fully leased and occupied, it would be a 90% occupancy rate. If the whole building is occupied, 100% occupancy rate. The next section in this page is the standard IDs. So in the standard IDs, this is where you would put your clean building ID. At this time, tier 2 buildings don't have a clean buildings ID, but when they do, you'll select the drop-down option under standard ID state province, and then select, what's the name on it? Choose State of Washington Clean Building Standard, and then next to it, you'll put in the Clean Buildings ID, which will be the county that the building is in, followed by a series of numbers. For example, King 1, 2, 3, 4. It's okay if you don't have the IDs right now, you can still set up the property and you can always add them at a later date. Additionally, if you have other reporting requirements, like such as City of Seattle, you may need to enter those IDs in this section when you're setting up the property. You'll also be able or be prompted to provide answers to a few additional questions that will help Portfolio Manager build out your property details. The selection choices for do any of these apply vary depending on which property type you choose initially. So select any of the options that are applicable to your property. These selections shouldn't affect the EUI metrics, but some of them can impact Energy Star score and can be used in that Energy Star score. So if it's something that your organization wants to pursue going forward, just fill those out as accurately as possible. And then for all property types, there will be a question about parking. If your parking areas are separately metered from the building itself, you don't need to check that box. However, it's very common for parking areas and buildings to share energy meters. So if this is the case, check the box, and then on the next screen, Portfolio Manager will prompt you to enter more information about parking. Once you've done that, you'll click Continue, and it'll take you to the next screen, where you'll be asked to provide more details for your primary property type. So as mentioned earlier, each property type will have different use detail questions. As you pass your mouse over them, each of those use details, the definition will appear. And then if you click on them, they'll actually take you to a glossary where you can kind of search through some of the meaning behind some of those different data points. If applicable, this is where you may enter additional building property types as well by selecting the option at the top of the screen titled Add Another Type of Use. Then Again, just being sure that those property types in Portfolio Manager align with the building activity types from your application. Buildings with multiple property types will need to adjust their property use details to accurately reflect the portion of the building that those areas represent. And then you'll need to confirm the gross floor area of the building, enter the weekly operating hours, number of workers on main shift, number of computers, and other information specific to the building, such as the parking use details. A lot of those data points are not or do not impact the EUI metrics, but again, they could impact or influence Energy Star certification. So if it's something your organization is pursuing, make sure you put in accurate information there. And if you don't have certain pieces of information now, you can utilize default or temporary values and then go back and modify those at a later date. Once you're done with that, click Add Property, and now the property is created. So this screenshot here is what it looks like kind of on the landing page for your specific building once you have the property created. This is called like the property summary tab. You can view property details. You can enter data for your energy, emissions, water, waste, or set goals for the building. At this point, you won't have any energy metrics displayed in the box in the top right. This is because there's no meter data or consumption data yet, which we'll go over here in a few slides. But before we leave, I just want to point out that both the metrics summary box highlighted here and the trend graph on the left-hand side of the summary tab are both customizable, meaning that the user can select which metric they want to display. Selecting the change metric button or right up here will open up this window, which lists 15 different metrics to choose from. The Clean Buildings Performance Standard utilizes weather normalized site EUI, which is the metric that's highlighted by the red box there. So yeah, make those changes if you need to. It doesn't affect anything. All these metrics are still calculated. It's just what displays on your page when you log in. And that's essentially the basic steps for setting up the property. Next, we'll kind of cover the campus options or buildings with or multi-building properties. So as mentioned earlier, there may be a need for to set up a campus or property with multiple buildings for Tier 2 compliance reporting. So in the event that your Tier 2 building shares energy meters with another building or doesn't have sub-metering in place to track energy use for the building itself, you'll need to provide aggregated benchmarking data on Form C of your compliance application. This is known as connected building level compliance. So these group buildings complying at the connected building level may benchmark their building's energy use using the campus multi-building property feature within Portfolio Manager. And with this feature, building owners can aggregate the energy usage and the GFA of their group of buildings to track group level performance. So the first step is kind of going back what we covered initially with the single buildings. When you add a property, you select this radio button that has more than one buildings, and then you'll specify the number of buildings within that parent property. Enter the information on the basic property information page for the parent property as a whole. Aggregate the floor area and the occupancy percentages to account for all of the group buildings on the property, and then enter the property type details or property use details on the how it is used page to describe the parent property. So these must be, again, consistent with the Clean Building Performance Standard Table 7.1 building activity types. For connected buildings, the parent property should reflect the building activity types of the child properties that make up the group of buildings. So for example, if you had two Tier 2 buildings, both 25,000 square feet that shared metering, one was an office building, one was a supermarket, that parent property that you're creating, the floor area would be 50,000 square feet, which is the aggregated total of the two buildings. And then 25,000 square feet would have an activity type of office, 25,000 square feet would have an activity type of supermarket, grocery store. Okay, so once you've created that parent property, then you need to add the child properties associated with it. So for this step, you have the option to add either an existing building that you've already created that's within your portfolio, or you can create a new building. You can add as many child properties as needed. Once added, child properties will show up on their own in your list of your My Properties, but they'll also show up as child properties on the summary tab of the parent. So in this screenshot here, I've got a fictitious university. This is kind of that summary tab for that particular campus of buildings, and then down here, it's sort of cut off, but individual buildings in this property, it'll show you the list of all the child properties that are within the parent. And this is where you would click to add additional child properties. So to add an existing building, you click on that button there, and then you click up here in this select buildings. That'll open up a list of all the properties that are within your portfolio. You can select which one of those to associate with the parent property and then add the buildings. Or you have that option of entering a new building and essentially walking through the steps we've already covered earlier in this presentation for each of those new buildings. Okay, so we've gone over just creating an account, setting up a property. The next step is adding energy meters and getting the energy use data into your account. So first, let's look at adding an energy meter. So from your portfolio tab, My Portfolio tab, select the property with which or for which you want to add the energy meters. Use the Energy tab to then add meters and enter energy consumption, and then get started to click Add a Meter. So this is kind of the screenshot here of your My Portfolio. There should be a list of all the properties you have. In this scenario, I'm clicking the Medium Office. It opens up the Medium Office Summary tab. And then if you go to the Energy tab here, you should see this little button that says Add a Meter. And then once you click that, it'll open up this window and you can select the fuel types that you have metered at your property. So, and you can select more than one or one at a time. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. Once you identify which meters and then you hit the button, it'll take you to this screen where you will add basic information for each of the meters. So select the accurate unit type for each of the fuels via the drop down. Example, therms for natural gas, kilowatt hours for electricity. You'll put in the date the meter became active. This can be the date that the building was built, as your meters are likely became active when construction was completed. But in most cases, for folks that are setting up an account now, you want to just enter the date of the first meter read that you have available to you. For instance, your building may have been built in 1990, but you didn't start benchmarking until 2022. If you have meter data from 2022 forward, just start with that 2022 date. You only need to enter a date the meter became inactive if you want to note that a meter has been decommissioned. Since we're just now setting this stuff up, you likely won't use that. If your fuel is delivered in bulk, like fuel oil or propane, then check the enter as delivery option here. You can also add additional meters on this screen. Then once you've defined the general characteristics of each of those meters, select the Create Meters option. So once you create your meters, Portfolio Manager will take you to this page, where you'll identify which of those meters to include in the metrics. So Portfolio Manager utilizes the selection from this page to identify which meter data should be used in calculating your building's EUI and WNUI. So it's important to be sure that all active energy meters are accounted for. In most instances, you'll want to include all meters and select the option, these meters account for the total energy consumption of the building. You'd likely only identify a building as not accounting for total energy consumption in the case where you are benchmarking part of a building, or if an individual building is within a campus and it only gets electricity directly through, for example, that building only gets electricity through the utility meter, but it gets their thermal energy from a shared central utility plant. For benchmarking purposes, you may need to be careful if your building has sub-metering in place for a specific purpose. and you also have a master meter, which measures the total energy consumption for the building, just got to be careful not to double count. So if you have a sub meter and a master meter on the same building, just don't include the sub meter in the metrics. You can still see the meter data. It just won't be used to calculate those UI metrics. And then similarly for campuses or multi-building properties, as a general rule, if a meter is shared by multiple child properties on a campus, that meter should be associated with the parent. If a building on the campus has a meter specific to that building, included at the child level, and then associated with the parent property. So now the meters are set up, you should be able to see them listed under the energy tab for your property. Within this tab, you can access the energy meters that are set up for the building. You can add new meters as needed and edit meter selections, meaning you can edit which meters to include in those metrics. And then if you want to add your latest bills or update past meter entries, you can click on the relevant meter or select enter your bills. So you can either click on the meter itself or come over here. So the next step then is getting utility data into those meters within your account. So there's multiple ways to enter usage data for your property or portfolio. The most basic approach is to do it manually. You can click on those meters and click on add, and you can put it in monthly entries manually. It's a little tedious to go that route. Another option is to upload data using spreadsheet templates. Portfolio Manager offers a simple spreadsheet option, which can be used to upload meter data for a single meter. They also offer a more complex spreadsheet option that allows users to upload data for multiple meters and or multiple buildings at one time. And then the third way, which ideally you can utilize with your property, is to work with third-party providers or your building's utility to exchange data directly with Portfolio Manager via their web services option. Because we're somewhat limited for time today, we were not going to go into all of those options in any detail, really. However, Portfolio Manager provides links to their guidance for each option within the box highlighted on the slide, which can be found on the left-hand side of the Properties Energy tab. So you'll see this is the Energy tab here. There's this box down here, 5 ways to enter bill data. Each of these has a link that links to guidance that kind of walks through the different approaches to doing that. Additionally, there are some useful links over here that when you have the slides available to you, you should be able to click on and find some useful information. So utilities in the state of Washington are required to provide energy consumption data to building owners upon request. The larger utility providers serving more than 25,000 customers in the state are required to provide energy data automatically via the web services option. Smaller utilities are not required to utilize web services, but they still have to provide data upon request in an Excel format that can be directly uploaded into Portfolio Manager. So work with your utilities to get the energy use data needed for your building. The EPA's or the Energy Star website maintains a list of utilities that offer that aggregated utility data. In addition to the list, they also have an interactive map that allows users to search for utilities by zip code. Both are in the links here. And then finally, the EPA offers a step-by-step guidance on how to get utility data into Portfolio Manager, which is also provided on this page here. All right. Now you're benchmarking. Once you get utility data into your account, you can track building energy use month to month, year to year to see where the building is at. And then when it comes time to submitting compliance documentation for the Clean Building Standard, you'll need to establish a connection with Commerce's portal, and then share your building use data and then complete Form C in a compliance application. To enable sharing for compliance reporting, you'll need to first establish a connection with Commerce via the Contacts tab on your portfolio account. So on this top banner on the web page, you'll see this Contacts link. When you click that, it'll take you to This tab where there's an option to add new contacts and connections, and then you'll be able to search under a username, the search field criteria of WA Clean Buildings, WA Clean Buildings. Once you hit search, it should show up like this: Washington Clean Buildings Program, Department of Commerce, Energy Division within or with WA Clean Buildings. Click on the connect button. Once the connection is approved, building owners have the ability to then share their property information with us via ESPM. Commerce approval should happen within 24 hours. It often is quicker than that. Just give it about a day just to make sure that there's no hiccups with that connection or that request approval. And once you have confirmed the request, under the contacts tab, you're ready to then share your property or properties. So this step enables sharing of the building energy data and the EUI metrics so that the Clean Building Portal can actually call for that data to populate the Form C when you're submitting your compliance application. So to do this, so click on Share or Edit Access to a Property within the Sharing tab of your My Portfolio screen, which is this first option up here. That will take you to this screen where you'll click on the button that says select properties. From there, it'll pull up a list of all the properties within your portfolio. You select the ones with which you want to share to Commerce or with Commerce. Once you've made that selection, it'll take you back to this page. You'll select Washington Clean Buildings Program, Department of Commerce, and then you'll select personalized sharing and exchange data, and then hit continue. Once you're jump page. Okay. Once you hit continue, it'll open up this window here, share your properties. If you select more than one property initially to share, you'll have to do this with each of the properties that you've selected. But you'll click on the property and it'll come to this window. You'll want to select the radio button under Exchange Data. Upon doing that, it'll open up yet another window where you'll actually select the permissions for the property itself, for the individual meters. For recognition, you can select none. And for share forward options, you can select no. Once you've made those selections, click on the button down here, apply selections and authorize exchange. It'll take you back to this page where you'll click share properties. Once you've done that, it should give you a confirmation on the screen. And then once that's set up and once that's confirmed, you're all set to share data with Commerce. So kind of the final step in the process then is once you're connected with Washington Clean Buildings, once you've established those permissions and you have your SAW account and your building set up within the Clean Buildings portal, is to log into your portal account within an application under the Form C tab, Form C ESPM. It should be up here. You'll see this window. All you'll need to do then, once the connection is established, is enter your portfolio manager ID for the building, and then identify the start month and start year for the 12 consecutive months of energy use data that you're using for your compliance submission. Click the button, Get Energy Use Data. The portal will actually go in and grab the EUI calculation and the weather normalized EUI calculation, and it'll pull over the energy use data from the meters that are within the building that are used to calculate these metrics. You'll see a connection status of success, and if all goes well, there shouldn't be any error messages displayed. If there are error messages, you may need to troubleshoot a little bit or reach out directly to us. We can try to help resolve any issues that come up. That was a lot of information. We went through it pretty quickly, but a lot of the same content is covered in a guidance document that Commerce has put together and is available on our website. This is the direct hyperlink to get to that guidance document that provides screenshots and sort of a step-by-step process for you to set up your account. You can essentially do everything that we just covered today. Additionally, Energy Star has a training webpage that has a lot of great information, guidance documents, Q&A. They've got, I believe, like a 101 series that you can follow for free to learn how to kind of do all this stuff, maybe even in more detail. And for me today, that is it. I'm going to pass it back over to Jeff.
Excellent. Thanks, Donnie. Appreciate that. And, benchmarking is such an important step in this process. And I appreciate you and the rest of the team being able to spend quite a bit of time here recently and kind of breaking all this down and hopefully making it a little bit simpler for those out there that are going through this compliance pathway. So thank you very much for that. So one thing that we continue to highlight with all of our webinars is the support that's available to everyone out here. We want to make sure that everyone is successful in this compliance pathway, and so we are here to support you in many different ways. First of all, just in the building notification process. So if you've got a tier 1 building, you're probably familiar with this, but tier 2 buildings, essentially what's happening right now is that our team is identifying the buildings that are between 20,000 and 50,000 square feet across the state and uploading that data into the Clean Buildings portal. Portal that Donnie mentioned earlier, where you can access your building data to process your compliance forms and whatnot. By July 1st, we intend to send out notification letters to all tier 2 building owners, along with instructions of how to access hopefully, I should say, how to access the portal or whatnot and have the other resources available to you at that time. But by July 1st, notification letters will go out. Beyond the notification letters, we offer just a large series of outreach, education, and support. Of course, the education piece, great example is today with our benchmarking webinar, and we do several webinars throughout the months, and welcome to check out our website for all the previous recorded webinars that we've done. We also send out regular Clean Buildings bulletins, attend the conferences and events as much as possible, and partner with other local entities, government entities, and nonprofits. Our Clean Buildings team is, like I said, here to support and offering technical assistance, meeting requests, and being able to walk through your specific building scenario and offer the technical assistance along the way. Additional no-cost support, as you can see here, we're very reachable. So if you've got questions in regards to your building and the performance standard, I encourage you to visit our website and check out the information that's there. And then if you've got questions, submit that question through our customer support form. That comes right to our team here. And then after we review it, we decide who's best suited for that, whether it be maybe Donnie or someone on the technical team or incentives. Maybe it's a data question. And we get it to that specific team that can best answer that. And usually the responses are relatively quick. So if you're unable to find the form, I believe Robert just dropped that in the chat for everyone. Welcome to email us at buildings@commerce.wa.gov. And certainly we will get that to the right team as well. We do offer a monthly Clean Building Performance Standards office hours. This is on the fourth Tuesday of every month at 10 a.m. And it's really an open forum where you're able to come join our team, ask questions, walk through specific scenarios, or listen to what others are going through and how they're addressing some of the processes that specific to their building. There's the utility accelerator programs. And then we also have the Smart Building Center led by Building Potential. And this is a real gem that I want to highlight here as well. Uh, in addition to the Clean Buildings team that offers the no-cost support, so does the Smart Building Center, offering a lot of the technical support as well at no cost. Lots of trainings that they also offer. And I think one of the neatest unknowns that or lesser knowns that they offer that hopefully will get word out is that they also have their free tool lending library available. So invite folks to check that out. When you get the slides, there's a link for more details for them. And then Donnie did mention the Energy Start Portfolio Manager customer support and training opportunities with ESPM as well. And then we do have a couple of additional training opportunities coming up. And oh, there we go. Clean Buildings 101 in May 8th, and then decarbonization of the district energy systems on May 29th. And so I invite you to register for either one of those. And then we will be posting additional trainings for June as we get those confirmed on the calendar as well. So be on the lookout for that. So, all right. I think got it all covered. And so now's the time for some questions. We've got, looks like 10 minutes or so. If you've got questions based off of today's presentation, would love to hear it. I know we've got a couple of questions that were entered into the Q&A at the bottom of the screen and has been answered by our amazing technical team. But if there is a question you want to bring live, certainly welcome to just by raising that virtual hand and we'll bring you forward. But I do want to tee it up for James. You had a question that came in that you're working on in regards to the O&M, and wondering if you would be willing to come in and kind of talk about that.
Yeah, so the question was dealing with updating some of our forms and whatnot. So there's the O&M and EMP reporting tools that are part of our document library, which are required submissions for compliance. But we're also developing an EMP template and an O&M tool. Those documents, we're trying to get those out by the Tier 2 notification period. And those templates and that O&M tool will provide some additional clarification on guidance regarding developing the O&M program and the EMP. So they'll be talking a little bit more about the more detailed requirements and kind of why they're required as well. There are a number of resources on our website that are linked to non-commerce references and whatnot. And those are really meant as just possible templates and programs to explore. There are also other organizations that offer resources and assistance dealing with answering questions on EMP and O&M. And a lot of those can be found at some of the open houses that are across the state. And a lot of those are driven by utility assistance and accelerator programs. So there are a number of resources out there, and we are developing this EMP and O&M template and tool as well.
Perfect. Thanks, James, for being able to touch on that. So, all right. Let's see. Have there been any changes, or are there any changes expected for the Tier 2 Early Adopter Incentive Program? So, I'm going to kind of queue up Derek if he's in the room and try to bring him in to answer that one directly. But in the meantime, that is all the open questions I'm seeing. So while I do that, I'll keep an eye out for hands that come up. If anyone's got additional questions. All right. And so let's see, Derek, I believe I brought you in to take a look at that Tier 2 early adopter question for us, if you don't mind.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, we're still working through getting the early adopter incentive, how it's going to be incorporated into the portal. So we're still working through that and working through those difficulties. We know we're going to be able to do the anti-displacement agreement for the early adopter incentive for the Tier 2 program. So we're figuring out how to implement that into the portal. But we have found some difficulties with implementation for some of the other categories we were looking at, including the high energy users and then location-based options for the incentive. So at this point, we know we're going to be able to do the anti-displacement agreement for multifamily buildings. And then we are looking at how we can implement additional incentive categories for the future. So this is all kind of new, just here in the past couple weeks, couple months. So yeah, that's where we are at right now.
Perfect. Thanks, Derek. Appreciate that. So, and Steve, I did see your hand up, but I don't see any more. If you still got that question, I'm happy to bring you forward. Oh, here we go. Give me just 1 second. All right, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I was question. Does all this qualify for the 179D tax write-offs for energy compliance?
Let's see. I'm not personally familiar with that. I'm looking to our clean buildings team to see if anyone here's got an answer on that one. That might be one where we have to loop back with you on that.
Okay, no
Yeah.
worries.
Yeah. Let us follow up on that one for you, Steve. So that was, if you don't mind me asking again, that was the 179?
Yeah, 179D. I can actually email you some info. You can
Okay,
take a look at it.
that'd be great. Very
All
helpful.
right.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Okay. So falls under the IRA. Excellent. Okay, we'll take a look. If it's not within this group here, I'm sure we can find who can best suit that or answer that. So perfect. All right. A few minutes left here in our time today. So I just want to make sure that we give everyone ample time to bring your questions forward. Certainly if questions come up afterwards, when I send out the email with the recording and the presentation slides, it'll have our contact information in there as well as the customer support link, which I know Robert has also dropped into the chat as well. Thank you, Robert. So feel free to connect with us in one of those ways and with some additional questions if they come up afterwards. And I will just kind of give it another call here for questions. Okay, so all right. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate all that we're able to join our webinar and this presentation. Lots of good information. Donnie, thank you for walking us all through. This is a lot of very important and good information for anyone that is going through this process. So please take a look and consider joining us for our next upcoming webinar. Again, May 8th, which is our Clean Buildings 101. And then May 29th is our decarbonization of the district energy system. So we'll have the information how to register in the link below, or I'm sorry, in the email that's coming out here in the next couple days with this presentation. So until then, thank you all for joining us and look forward to connecting with you again soon. Take care.